We never had a family meeting before.
We never had a problem with a family member we can give away before.
Homer, what are you saying?
I'm saying that it's fun. It's better than it's fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Simpsons Countdown, the podcast where we go back to the beginning and watch all of The Simpsons, to trace the creative evolution of the series and count down, finding the exact moment in which it began its inevitable decline. I'm your host, Erix Antoine, and this week I'm joined by my dear friend, Jason Pollock. We'll be discussing the episode Bart's Dog Gets an F, which originally aired in the US on March 7th, 1991. In this episode, Santa's little helper destroys a family heirloom and Homer's very expensive sneakers. To stop his parents from getting rid of his beloved dog, Bart enrolls him at an obedience school in the hopes of curbing his bad behavior. The episode in and of itself is, I suppose, fine. It's a cute, sweet story. There are a couple of genuine laughs throughout. If it catches you in the right mood, you might even crack a smile at the end as tears roll out of your eyes. But it is also one of the slighter episodes, harkening back to the more simplistic storytelling from before the show, as I like to say, jumped the gorge. In any case, Pollock and I are about to break it down, so without further ado, here we go. Welcome back, Jason. How you doing?
It's day 7,423 of the American pandemic failure, and day 19,286 of the Trump presidency. I think I'm holding up pretty well at the end of the day, all things considered. I'm doing all right.
Yeah. And, I don't know if maybe watching this episode of The Simpsons cheered you up at all, or had any particularly positive effect on you. Bart's Dog Gets an F. Are you a dog person?
I'm an animal person. I like dogs. Like, people always do that, like, well, you're either a cat person or a dog person. No, I like cats and dogs, and bats and elephants. I like animals. So yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, like, one of the things I've always kind of thought is funny about Santa's little helper in the course of The Simpsons is that, like, oftentimes the dog is not animated in the episode. It's just not there. I think that leads to its disobedience, really, at the end of the day, because you get in what you put, you get out what you put in. If he were part of the family unit in a real way, he would be far more obedient and far better behaved.
Yes, a good point. The thing about Santa's little helper, yeah, it's a cute animal. It's a cute story. Bart's Dog Gets an F. But there's not much, I feel kind of like it's a cute story. It's a cute thing they kind of threw together. They came up with a cool idea for a story, and it works as a cute kind of like fable. It's very much centered around Bart. That's like the emotional core of it. It's a boy and his dog kind of thing. It's very nice, very cute. They do sell you on the concept that Santa's little helper is a very misbehaved dog, a very poorly trained, non-housebroken dog. You kind of have to if it's a second season, we're already on the home stretch of the second season, and there haven't been any episodes really that focused on him. So I guess you can, in a vague continuity, you can say this takes place not long after they got him or whatever, because. And then you think what his origins are. He's a racetrack dog that was terrible, and then they took him home. And so let's say if this episode takes place, let's say 6 months after that, it would make sense that he's just a very misbehaved dog, and they've never properly trained him or anything. And there's not much we can say about it. It's a cute little story. It's nicely put together, and you have like a big guest star here is Tracy Oldman. And I like her character. I think it's an interesting character. I like that voice that she gave her. Seems like one of the character from the sketch show, really.
I wonder how she felt about the idea that what began as interstitial content on her show outlasted her show. Well, by now, by what, 460 years, but like she did that cameo, or she did that voice work after her show was canceled, right?
Yeah, well, wait, a couple of things. I don't know that her show was actually canceled necessarily. I mean, it wasn't a huge ratings thing, but it did well enough that they kept going. I think it had like 4 seasons.
Was it canceled, or did she just walk away?
I think she walked away. I think like in the 4th season, after the 4th season, she was like, you know what, I've had a good run. I'm good. I'm good with this. I mean, she comes from British TV, so it's like for her, that's the thing. Like in English television, classic shows don't need to run for 700 years. You know, you can have like, you know, Fawlty Towers, one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, only has 3 seasons and I believe 12 episodes.
Right.
Between in the 3 seasons.
It's 6 episodes, you know, per season, per series. In UK television. Yeah,
actually it's 2. I think it's 2 seasons. Somebody will maybe correct me, but I think it's actually 2 seasons and like about 12 episodes, which means they were very short seasons, only like half a dozen episodes per season, and that's it. And it's one of the classic sitcoms of all time. So I think for her it was like, you know, I've done 4 seasons, got about 100 episodes. I mean, this is more than enough for me. You know, it's like I'm sure at that point, because I believe they wanted her. They basically said, look, you can keep going, you can do another season, and she was like, nah, but that's what I think. And yeah, but you know, even in its best days, I don't think that the Tracy Ullman show ever reached even remotely the height of success of The Simpsons in its first year. You know, like, so there might be a part of it where she was like, wow, this is some bullshit that was from my TV show that we never cared about this shit.
I was just gonna say that she stops at wow, this is some bullshit.
Right. Well, I mean, I just said like it might have felt like that for her. I don't think she was resentful. You know, because if she were, she wouldn't have done the show, right? True. But it must be like a funny thing. You know, it must be sort of the thing that, like, because by that point it was already a phenomenon. So by that point, but even, I mean, at that point they didn't imagine that, okay, and it's still going to be going on decades from now. You know, like,
I think at this point, weren't they on like the 7th musical album tie-in at this point? Like, seriously, like.
I believe not. We had just had the wonderful Simpsons Sing the Blues, and that's all we had. And then, but we had a bunch of video games.
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of frankly terrible video games, but you know, that's we had that, and you know, toys and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it was clearly a phenomenon, and so she takes this role. It's a good role, you know. It's a good, interesting role. I don't know if I want to call her the villain. She isn't. But some people, you know.
Well, she wants to choke the holy hell out of dogs, like.
Well, yes.
There's
although
the cruelty.
Yeah.
She's got that like prim and proper English woman, highborn English woman thing going, but also stern disciplinarian in the all-girls school kind of thing. Like, and she forces Bart at one point to choke the crap out of Santa's little helper too, which is, you know, it's obviously something he's pained doing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think she's almost villain, but she doesn't get any sort of comeuppance, because I don't know, the show. This is another one of those episodes that's incredibly slight.
Yes. And well, it's not. I mean, I guess her comeuppance is that she's proven wrong.
Right.
You know, like the in the end, Santa's little helper really does accomplish everything, and the premise of the episode is that he accomplishes it through his bond with Bart. You know, he ultimately Bart doesn't need the choke chain. You know,
right.
Santa's little helper, ultimately he has an understanding at that moment that for Bart this is really important, and so finally, you know, he snaps to, and what you realize at that point is that he always understood, he just didn't give a shit. You know, but now he realizes, oh, okay, so I actually have to do this. This is really important. Okay, fine. It's like he gets it. And so that's kind of a cute, I think it's a really nice kind of twist in the end. But yeah, she doesn't get like a traditional comeuppance. And now that I think about it, maybe she is kind of a villain, or at least Tracy Ullman might have seen her that way, because I guess the voice she gave her is kind of like Margaret Thatcher. You know, it seems almost like a Margaret Thatcher impersonation, or at least that's kind of.
Well, I would not. There's an element of the character that's drawn that way. She has the sort of the that high forehead, you know, with the.
Yes.
there's an element. You go, yeah. Now that you mention it, there is a sort of a Thatcher vibe.
Yeah, I think that might have been a conscious choice by Tracy Oldman, because that's not her natural speaking voice. She obviously put on this very, kind of exaggerated, cartoony accent thing. But that was like, so that's cute, I guess. I mean, it's like you said, it's a very slight episode, but there's a bunch of stuff in it that I remember from watching it way back when, and then watching it now, I'm like, oh yeah, that whole subplot with Homer's sneakers,
which is weird. It's a very weird subplot, I think, because normally, even if he liked something that Flanders had going on, he would never cop to it. And he becomes a like drooling mess in front of Flanders. And it's very strange that Homer would even give him the satisfaction. It's very out of character. He would insult those sneakers and then secretly covet them. But instead he's like grabbing Flanders like waist, and being in front of him. It's a very strange character moment for Homer there. Like, fall to your knees in front of another man and grasp at him while sobbing. It's like, what? It was a very strange. I was just kind of like, that's really weird that like he's, on his knees staring at his heels because the shoes have vanity plates. Obviously, they're a reference to Jordans and Reebok pumps, which were very popular at the time. But it's also very weird for Homer to basically go, oh, I need a pair of Jordans because I'm just not feeling as dope or fresh as normal. It's a very weird, like, that whole subplot exists just so Santa's little helper can eat a pair of $125 shoes.
That's a good point, because I was going to say this is 91, so it's hearkening to the whole Air Jordans thing. That's basically what it is. And I'm going, yeah, 35-year-old men didn't covet things like that. Like, it's not. I mean, that's sort of like, like I'm in junior high at that time, and so yeah, one of my classmates had one of those, like, banging Air Jordans. I was like, oh shit, man, I wish I had one of those. So, like, my dad, who would have been 35 at the time, he wouldn't be like, oh shit, those sneakers look amazing. Like it's just like, that's not.
My dad, right about the same age, would have been like, there's no way in hell I'm buying you a $150 pair of sneakers. There's just no way.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah. So then, like, in the the mid 90s, what was I into? Jesus, I'll cop to this. Of course, I was into Doc Martens. Okay, and so like, and my dad saw those and he thought those were cool because they looked cool. So then, yeah, he was like, oh, those look nice. Where'd you get those? Like, by this point, I had already gotten them with my own money, so it's like, whatever. It was like, and he was like, oh, I bought them in the village or whatever, and so he went and got himself a pair. So like, I get that, and the thing is, though, my dad still likes Doc Martens today, but I don't see a 35-year-old boomer in 1991 coveting a pair of Air Jordans.
Yeah, it's just not logical.
The other thing about that is that they're a little bit too busy in terms of the colors. I think it's just like the animators said, like, these have to look really flashy. What do? We just get, like, put a whole bunch of colors on them. And what it made me realize is that it's about a year ago now, my daughter, who is 17 as we speak, but so she was 15, 16 when this happened. She had me get her a pair of sneakers that she found online. She was like, please, Daddy, get me these. And I was like, sure. And they looked like that. They were like all colorful, and like, she still got the pair. The other day she came over and she was wearing them. I was like, oh right, those are like the Simpsons sneakers. It's because they look exactly like that. They had the same color, the whole same color scheme. They don't have vanity license plates, which is such a stupid thing. First of all, who's going to even see them? You're walking on the ground. No one's going to, it's like the line from Shawshank, like, how often do you actually look at a person's shoes? I don't know. It's just really silly. But as you said, it only exists because it's one of the things that Santa's Little Helper has to destroy.
Bad dog. Don't worry, Snowball. Blah, 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 blah.
I do think it's cute how they use little, like, slasher movie motifs to, like, thing with it's basically Friday the 13th is what they're doing.
I always try to do a little research, and see what people said about the episode. And there are people who say that it references Predator. And I'm like, do you not know that dogs don't perceive color the way we do? And and then like that's sort of like heavy breathing behind the dog's eye view. And it's like, you think that's Predator? Like, Predator vision is multicolored and it's heat vision. And where's your head, guys? What the hell? Like, I don't know.
No, and even the music is doing a riff on the Harry Manfredini score from Friday the 13th movies. It's doing a riff on that, and it's the POV shot, the classic like slasher movie POV shots, the heavy breathing behind the mask. Yeah, and the reason that the POV shots are, as you said, it's because dogs are daltonic. You know, they're colorblind. So yeah,
exactly like Predator, guys. Wake up.
Yeah, it's like Predator. It's not, you know. It references not one but two Spielberg films. They do kind of it's kind of a reference to Jaws, I guess. When Sazza Hopper eats the cookie, I guess that's kind of a riff on Jaws.
Yeah.
And then you have the E.T. reference, which frankly is very stupid.
It is indicative of the cutting edge humor of The Simpsons to make a reference to E.T. like a full 5 years after anyone would care.
Well, hang on a second. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but isn't this around the time that E.T. finally came out on VHS?
You're probably right. I had not even considered that.
Yeah, because I mean, it took forever to come out on VHS.
It did, know that. Yeah,
there was some kind of, I don't know what problem there was, for what reason they weren't putting it out. Like any other movie, it just never came out on home video until like 91 or 92. So it's possible that maybe it was back in the public consciousness or something.
Right.
But the thing is that it's a dumb reference, because usually when they do film references, you know, they're clever, they're funny, and there's usually some kind of a contextual. It usually makes sense, you know, like. It's just usually something that makes sense. You go like, oh, you know, in the context of what you're watching, it's a funny gag, but it makes sense that would happen.
Yeah, this is very much like, did you get the reference?
Look, Mom, I finished my patch. It depicts the two greatest musical influences in my life. And look.
And you go, yeah, but this doesn't make sense.
Why? Yeah.
You know, like, why this? Because the Jaws thing, you know, there's a predatory aspect. The dog's eating the cookie, or the slasher movie thing. You know, the dog is destroying things. That makes sense. But the E.T. thing is just like, it's like, let's throw in an E.T. reference. Oh, and it'll be really cute. They'll touch fingers when like the calloused fingers. They'll just like touch fingers, and when they do that, we'll do like a riff on E.T. and just have like the two fingers come together on top of the quilt. And I'm just going like, it's not funny. Like it's stupid. It's actually really stupid. I'm getting more worked up about this than I should. I don't know why.
This might not even be a reference, but something I noticed that was really weird, it hit me in a very strange way, is that one of the teen magazines that Homer goes to the mall to get for Lisa is called Teen Steam, which may or may not be a reference to the Alyssa Milano fitness video.
I'll say something about that too. I think that, and I guess this is only retroactively, like, obviously this wasn't the intention, but it's kind of impossible for me, like, to watch that scene now, like Homer walking into like, you know, the magazine shop and asking for the teen magazines. And there's this little exchange. It's like, they're for my daughter, and he's like, sure they are. And I'm like, what's he implying? And then at that point, and then I go, wait a minute. And then obviously I can't not think of Happiness. When Dylan Baker walks into like a mall and like buys a bunch of teen magazines, and then, you know, goes into his car and enjoys those magazines. And so like, and then I think to myself, are they referencing that in The Simpsons? Are they doing like is the magazine guy implying that like Homer is getting those magazines for his own pleasure because he is like Dylan Baker in Happiness? And I'm going like, Happiness came out years after this, right? But it's kind of a known commodity that you know, those magazines are popular for those kinds of people. So like, I mean, I wonder, is that what, because the guy gives him shit about it. You know what I mean?
It's sort of, especially in an episode so kind of like sweet natured to be that vicious. Like, it's a bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably reaching, but I couldn't help but think about that when I watched that scene. I was like, boy, okay. And then, I mean, it's kind of weird because, and they do that a lot. They do things like that a bunch because, you know, in the first season when he goes to the arcade to learn how to play boxing and he asks for quarters and he's like, they're for my laundry. And the guy's like, yeah, sure they are. And I'm going like, what if they're not for his laundry? I mean, why is it such a big deal that a guy in his 30s is walking into an arcade? Why is that a problem? Right. Why should he be ashamed of this? It's also like, you know, like the famous scene in Die Hard, you know, when we meet Reginald Johnson and he walks in and buys like 500 packs of Twinkies. And he's like, they're for my wife. And the guy's like, yeah, sure. And, you know, like, okay, that's funny. Because obviously, you know, it's kind of tubby cop buying 100 Twinkies. And, you know, so the guy's just giving him shit because they're obviously for him. But so that's a funny joke. But the thing about the magazine, it's like, why is it a problem? Or like what, you know, why is he ashamed?
Why is it a problem unless you are literally asking him, are you a pedophile?
Right, exactly. Like
The Simpsons doesn't typically go there. Like,
yes,
it's a bit ruthless to consider Homer. It's dark. It's just it's dark.
It's dark. And maybe it's my darkness. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but it comes off that way, and it comes off that way years later because of Happiness, thanks to that film and Dylan Baker's amazing performance. Where I can't believe that Dylan Baker managed to have a career after that performance. He's a wonderful actor, but it's the kind of thing where you play a guy like that and that's the end. Like really no one will ever see you as anything else. And so it's pretty amazing that the guy went on to have a pretty, you know, solid character actor career.
Come on, boy, sit. Blah blah. Blah blah. Pull the chain.
There's some random stuff going on in this episode. I feel like maybe the random stuff exists because they knew it was like a thin episode. So they're like, let's just put some weird stuff in, like.
Yeah, throwing a lot of like sight gags, a lot of little things that maybe people will pick up on, and we'll give the suggestion that that the magazine salesman accuses Homer of pedophilia, all this stuff.
Just some cute little references.
Right, just like the kids won't pick up on that. No, they don't. Whatever. And the
kids won't pick up on that hilarious joke. That's one for the parents.
Right. Yes.
Pedophilia joke.
Speaking of weird things, there's this gag right at the end. Like when Santa's Little Helper like does it, and then like everybody's like yay, and there's this weird gag where like Homer's like kind of sleepy and slowly starts clapping, and then goes like yay, like it's like this weird thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? At the very end.
To me, it was like he was upset about the fact that now meant that they could keep Santa's Little Helper because they didn't want to keep him. But then, like, decides to get on board with it. Like, okay, yeah, you know, and my son worked his butt off to try and get the dog to a place where he was, like, you know, an actual trained dog. And so I'm sort of resentful of this. I hate that I'm going to keep the dog. But you know what? Okay, now I'm on board. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe it was a film reference. You know, maybe it was like a reference to something. Isn't like...
Well, you know, there's a slow clap in every 80s movie. Like,
yeah, or isn't there like a slow clap like in like Billy Jack Goes to Washington? Like I don't, you know, like
slow clap in Turk 182.
It's just like, but it's such a weird thing. This is like the slow clap, you know, or maybe it's just a reference to whatever. Because maybe the whole thing with the dogs, with the biography at the end of what happened. Maybe that's a reference to Animal House. It could be. It's like a graduation. They throw the leashes up and like, you know.
It is the funniest thing in the episode. Like where are they now? Like when the one dog eats a poisonous toad and is in a coma. That was my biggest laugh of the episode. He ate a poisonous toad, now in a coma. I really like that hit me in a really weird way, and I laughed. And it was the dog's name was Lao Tzu, and he ate a poisonous toad. He's in a coma. I laughed at that. It would have been really funny if, it said that one of them died in Vietnam. Maybe it wouldn't have been funny. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's why I never got to write for The Simpsons. Everyone else has, but I haven't.
Yeah, no, I mean, it might have worked because they certainly do a lot of cool Vietnam jokes in The Simpsons. Although they start popping in like in season 3, when we find out Skinner's backstory of being in Nam and like how this has deeply traumatized them, and they really do make like quite a few fun references to that. But that, we'll get there. No, so maybe the whole thing, like he died in Vietnam, that somebody might have found that funny. Oliver Stone would have found it funny. And so what else can we say about this episode? Is there anything we haven't brought up?
I like Tracy Ullman's line that you have to train a dog the way you train a child. And then she introduces the choking leash. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm on board. Maybe, you know what? To think about what we were talking about earlier, maybe she's not a villain, because I get that. I'm with you on that front. Like, yeah, just choking collar. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, some people require a firm hand, and when they don't have a firm hand, they turn out terribly. And
that's exactly what Jackie Chan says about the Chinese.
I still love Jackie Chan though. That movie he did a couple of years ago with Pierce Brosnan. I don't know if you watched it. I think it's called The Foreigner.
Oh yeah, The Foreigner. It's great stuff.
Yeah, and he gives a great performance. Like I was, it's not. This is not. There's a reason why there's no like blooper reel of all the stunts like at the end of the movie, because it's such a fucking dark movie that it just would have been weird.
Like, Pierce Brosnan getting hit with a ladder, and then they fan him. They fan him with a towel. Like 40 guys come in and fan him with a towel. They put him on a mattress and carry him away. That'd be great.
What else? That's about it. I mean, there's not much I can say about this episode. What do we think of it finally? I mean, it's slight. But is it good?
It's, I'm almost tired of saying that about a Simpsons episode I view. It's like, oh, it was a pretty slight episode. It's, it's inoffensive. And because The Simpsons was such a phenomenon, it was probably like, one of the top 10 shows on television at the time. Like it was the top, like in the top 10 for the week or something like that, probably, 14 million viewers.
Yes, it was. Like I always look that up, and it was essentially, it was the highest rated program on Fox.
Sure.
And it was, in the top 10 for the whole week for every network. Still fell behind Cosby, but it was, it was,
you know what? That's something we didn't touch on. When Marge calls the doctor about Lisa's mumps, the doctor is totally a Cosby stand-in. He's like he's got a loud sweater and everything. Like he's.
Yes, I think this is the first time that they actually acknowledge it, because as I understand it, they knew that they would be going up against Cosby. They already made the decision to move to Thursday nights, and it was around that time that they decided to create the character of Dr. Hibber. I don't know if they knew quite how recurring he would be. He eventually became one of the huge characters, but at the time, he was a kind of parody of Bill Cosby. I mean, he was. It's a good-natured parody, but he's a doctor, like Dr. Cliff Huxtable, and he wears horrendous sweaters. And you see him with his family. You see him with his family having dinner. They do this thing where like he's speaking to Marge, and you don't hear the other side of the conversation. And he says something like, "How did you get my home number?" "Oh, well, that's very clever." And is that supposed to like? I guess she looked it up, or she asked someone. He's the family doctor, so I think it's the sort of thing where, okay, maybe they wouldn't have his home number, but they'd certainly have his pager, for emergencies. And he's a doctor, so he would have that. So like that doesn't really. That's just a weird exchange.
The other thing I remembered, Heavens to Murgatroyd.
The animals were settling down to sleep. All except one called Snaggle Push.
Oh.
Again,
yes.
The cutting edge references and humor of The Simpsons.
Yeah. It might have been an ad lib by Tracy Oldman. Might not have been scripted. Could have been just an ad lib that she threw in there. But at the same time, again, let's remember who these writers were. In the first 2 seasons, we're still talking about boomers in their 30s. And so for them, it is like, oh, of course, everybody's going to know what that is.
I'm embarrassed that I know what it is, but I've always confounded old people around me by having sort of a foundation for weird references. It's that weird age where you're like, you're a kid in the 70s, but you're also a kid in the 80s, and you're a teen in the 90s. It's like, I played Pong, you know, and I have a PS4.
We are in that generation. You're a couple of years older than me, but you know, we're basically in the same generation. How do I get references to old shit? Because I was watching a lot of that old shit when I was a kid, because that old shit was on TV still. I mean, you know, I watched Nick at Night, and then I watched other things too. Like, so I got that stuff. You know, like if somebody references 8 is enough, I'll know what it is, even though I didn't. I watched it in reruns whenever like I was home from school, like on a weekday morning.
I don't hate myself that much, but I've seen 8 is enough, and I watched The Courtship of Eddie's Father. I could never understand why Dr. Banner wouldn't turn into the Hulk. It always annoyed me.
Actually, I got to stop you there. So here's my introduction to, and I'm gonna list them: The Courtship of Eddie's Father, The Mod Squad.
Yeah.
The Young Lawyers featuring Salman King. Okay, like acting. Yeah. How do I know these? Because at some book fair or someplace like in the mid '80s, like my stepmom or someone got me like a stack of like Dell comic books, and these were, you know, comic books of the Mod Squad, of The Courtship of Eddie's Father, like these were and so I'm reading these, and I'm reading the comic book. I'm reading the Mod Squad comic book, and my father, who got to the U.S. in 1972, he sees me reading that like comic. It's like, oh, the Mod Squad, this comic book, you know, like because he actually watched it on TV when it was on. You know, it was like, oh, we all loved that girl, you know, Peggy Lipton. That's how I got to know that stuff. Yeah, but no, the thing about old references, right? We're in that place. You just said like you played Pong when you were a kid. It's like the first video game I ever played that I can remember playing, like that I have like a vivid memory of playing it, is Miner 2049.
Okay, yeah, I know.
On like my cousin's Texas Instruments. I think you slammed the cartridge, like the back of it or something. I think that's how it was, and plug the joystick into it, and I mean but it was a Texas Instruments, that I remember clearly, and sitting there and playing Miner 2049. And you show a kid that today, it's like, what the fuck is this? And I just thought that was amazing. I loved Oh My Darling Clementine. I was playing over and over and over again. So you're like, but yeah, we are in that weird thing. It was like, yeah, when I was a little kid, I played Miner 2049er and like Dino Wars and Space Fury, which has that like great Emerson, Lake and Palmer like thing at the beginning. Like you, I've got a PS4, so it's. But I can still, like, if you sit me down and have me like play Space Fury or like Yar's Revenge, I'll still have fun.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's a blessing. I think the fact that I can have fun with it today, you know, like, retro gaming. The fact that I can have fun with that, I think that's a good thing. I think that's like a blessing that I have. That I think I've got one up on today's kids.
My girlfriend's a few years younger than I am, and she watches me play Castlevania, and she's like, how in the name of God do you even have the patience to deal with this? Like, I think people don't have the patience for permadeath that we do. I still think people get off so light. It's like, hey, you know what? Eventually, after the 780th time you die, like, maybe Nathan Drake should start back at the beginning. Like,
but speaking of that, you've heard about the new update for Last of Us 2, right?
Yeah. They're going.
It's got permadeath.
The permadeath.
It's the whole but apparently you can apply the permadeath to any difficulty. So if you want to be a real, like, you know, if you want to pretend you're giving yourself a challenge, you can put it on like the very easy mode, and like just make it really, really easy, and just put permadeath so that you probably won't die, but it gives you that suspense, that little suspense, like, well, I
It's funny, I actually remember playing Alien Isolation, and dying 100 times gets you a trophy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's so not only is there no permadeath, but you actually get an achievement for not being good.
Yeah, back in the Atari days, it was badges. Yeah, you had to like mail in for badges. Now they just give you virtual trophies, and you know, you have to do stupid shit to achieve them. But it's kind of funny, I guess. Oh yeah, Castlevania, good times. They have those bats, man. Where you're like in the very first level when you have to jump, like it's like when you're down in like the catacombs, you have to jump across, and like the bats keep coming and knocking you down. That's the worst fucking thing.
You know what? Enjoy Dark Souls, man. There's nothing worse than a Castlevania bat. I don't care what you're doing. Nothing more deadly than a Castlevania bat.
And the music's so upbeat too. Like while you're dying, it's like you're hearing like this disco, like this gothic disco music, like playing while you're like. So yeah, so what do we think of this episode? It's slight, it's fine. It's not a classic. I'll say this, okay? When I was watching it again now, but the thing is, I'm an easy mark. So like when I was watching it again now, like at the end when Bart's like breaking down because like he thinks he's gonna lose the dog and his voice starts breaking and that whole part and then the dog finally starts like doing all the shit that he's supposed to do. Yeah, I got a lump in my throat. I got like that had like it. I was like, oh, that's very sweet. I got the lump in my throat, little like smiles through tears kind of thing. But I'm an easy mark for that. Like cartoons, like all one sentiment gets to me.
One manly tear. Strong men also cry.
We're gonna have to say goodbye because you don't understand a single word I say. If you just knew how important it was to learn blah blah. Sit. Wait a minute, you did it. Lay down. Shake hands. Stay. Speak. All right, good boy. Roll over.
You son of a bitch.
So yeah, this was a good talk. This was a lot of fun. I'll have you back here in a couple weeks to do the War of the Simpsons, and we'll have fun then. It'll be another good talk. I think this one's not quite as slight. I think the War of the Simpsons finally is like a meaty, like a slightly richer episode. It's about marital strife. So like I think it'll give us a lot more to talk about, and I'm looking forward to that. So until then, have a good one.
All right, you too. Take it easy.
So that's it for this week's installment of the Simpsons Countdown. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Anchor FM, and other podcasting platforms. A brief review might actually help boost the podcast's profile, so by all means, feel free. And if it isn't too much trouble, please do share this with all your friends on social media. I'm Erix Antoine. I'll be back next Thursday evening to talk about Old Money, which is one of the famous Simpsons tearjerkers and provides a cute love story for Grandpa Simpson. Ariane will be chiming in from Jersey to talk about that, and maybe one of her voices will break at some point, who knows. In any case, I hope you'll join us. Until then, stay safe out there and continue observing your biosafety and social distancing protocols, because whether your area is opening up or not, we are not quite through this thing, and we need everyone to do their part keeping themselves and everyone else healthy. And we'll get through this in due time. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Unfettered and uncaged. To think that I, king of the jungle, should be so lowly treated. Besides, the food is up down.
Shh.